less heading for a Sri Lanka kind of situation where you could find in the next few months, obviously if something magical happens, I can't say, but the way it is going, you could see the Pakistani Janta, the Pakistani Awam as they say, on the streets, exactly the way it is happening in Sri Lanka, where you're seeing a hunger crisis building, you're seeing a fuel crisis building, you're seeing an energy crisis building. Pakistan has been surviving with a begging bowl, whether it is IMF or it was the United States of America earlier, or whether it was World Bank, bailouts after bailouts. I think that has been the only surviving factor for Pakistan. Otherwise, the country would have economically and of course politically, we all know, collapsed by now, Vineet.
Absolutely, Major General. So, Dr. Kohli, it's the fundamentals that need to be figured out first. But where would you put China's role in the dissemination and the disintegration of the Pakistani economy? And where would you also place the misplaced notion of the Pakistani government and its people and its siyasatdans in thinking that China is going to be their savior?
Well, Vineet, I'll tell you something very interesting. We've been talking of the Wuhan virus, as we call it, the Chinese coronavirus, which the whole world suffered from over the last 2 years. I have discovered a new virus, and I don't know, your channel might like to give a name. I call it as the Chinese economic virus. This is what China would do. China would walk into a country with some money on its sleeves, which it has over the last 3 decades managed to become the second biggest economy in the world with a few $1 trillion in hand here and there. This is what it walks into a poor country, says we are with a checkbook. We are here to give you a loan. Tell us what do you want to pledge to us. And the country says, okay, the countries are in dire need. A country like Pakistan is with a begging bowl at all times. I mean, you can go and offer money to Pakistan for anything. So walks into a country, says you pledge an airport, you pledge a port, you pledge a piece of island or whatever. The country has no choice because taking finances from World Bank and IMF has got certain defined criteria, which the country may not be meeting and may not be getting the required volume as well. So here comes China, walks in, finances the journey, and then after a while, the journey comes under storm. And we have seen this with the African countries, and I think Sri Lanka is a classic example of Chinese economic virus. So if there is a Wuhan virus, give it a name. I would love if NewsX gives this virus a name. Let me not do the naming of this virus. So when this virus hits a country, it is going to destroy the economy of the country sooner than later. The so-called CPEC project. Look at the condition of the CPEC, the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, which we have debated so many times on your channel. If you see what condition is the CPEC in today, you would be able to relate what I'm trying to describe. Another thing, I did a very interesting comparison, Vineet, on the state of Uttar Pradesh versus China, because there were some similarities. Little bit of similarity on the size, little bit of similarity on the population. Uttar Pradesh has got a population of about 23, 24 crores, although Chief Minister Yogi says 25 crores, but since the census is not, so I think the population is quite comparable. If you look at the GSDP of Uttar Pradesh, the gross state domestic product, and you look at the GDP of Pakistan, you will be shocked to know that Pakistan as a sovereign, independent country falls much behind Uttar Pradesh, which is a simple state in India, which is, a part of a federal system. So therefore, ideally there is no comparison. You can't compare a federal system state with a sovereign country, technically speaking. But when you go into the parameters, you find that a sovereign country, which is so much got freedom to do so many things, falls behind Uttar Pradesh for that matter. So I think this is why I did this comparison is to expose how country has gone wrong in its economic policies. In fact, if you ask me, there have been no economic policies in the country. All the governments, not only Imran Khan, the preceding governments, if you go into the economic history of the country, economically they have never been thinking right. They have always been thinking militarily. They have always been thinking of terrorism. The whole approach we need. There is only one way they have gone wrong. The approach is not constructive. It is